From Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 217. It's week 42 of 2025. I'm Alexander Leibner, and a special welcome to everyone listening. If you're here for the very first time, big welcome to you. And if you're a regular listener, well, you know how we do it and you know how it goes, so make yourself comfortable. If you're listening from Johannesburg or Pretoria, across Gauteng or South Africa, and of course, our listeners around the world, including our second biggest audience in Nigeria, welcome to you. And then there's the United States, Qatar, the UK, and the list goes on. So I'm happy to report that all is well in Santonland. If you're tuning in from any of those places. And Vincenzo, my man behind the mixing desk. Yeah, Vincenzo, I'm looking a little bit exhausted, worn out this week. It's been one for the books, let me tell you. I feel like a social athlete at this time of the year, as those end of year functions and launches and announcements and you name it start coming out of the woodworks in rapid succession. Just to give you an idea. Just the last juice of this week. What happened? I attended the Discovery Sleep Summit, which is probably something I need a lot of right now, which is sleep. They brought out a fascinating report on sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, make sure that you start adjusting your sleep. Very, very important. But as part of this, they also announced their new partnership with something called Aura, or an Aura ring, which is a ring that you wear on your finger, and it monitors your vitals, your sleep patterns. It's got all kinds of technology built into it. Very fascinating. And this is now part of Discovery. If you're part of Discovery Health, Vitality, you can get a ring like this and you can start monitoring your sleep patterns and make sure that you start getting better sleep, which is really fascinating. More up on the website, and I'm sure there's more that we're going to be chatting about in the coming weeks. Then a quick sushi lunch with Coravin. And if you've never heard what a Coravin is, well, it is a device that you can stick a needle through a cork. It's almost like a surgical needle. It goes through a cork in a wine bottle, and you can literally drink any bottle of wine by the glass. So you don't have to open a whole bottle, and you know how it goes. Then you don't end up finishing it, and then it ends up sitting in the fridge or in the kitchen, and then that's it. End of it. So this incredible device allows you to surgically remove wine from a bottle, have a glass, put it back, and it's perfectly fine. It's unbelievable. But it was a very short lunch because right that same day, had to rush off to the launch of a new television channel on DSTV called Bravo TV, which was hosted at the Four Seasons The Westcliff, which ended up being a long day. Then, as the week drew to a close, it was off to a lunch with Safilo, and Safilo is an Italian sunglass manufacturer, and you might know some of their stuff. They do David Beckham sunglasses, they do Under Armour, Hugo Boss, Moschino, tons of brands. Some beautiful new stuff coming out. I had a chance to just see the full range and get an idea of what is available for this summer, and let me tell you, some amazing stuff. Then Words That Heal launched at Sandton City. This is a Ricky Rick Foundation and Sandton City awareness campaign around mental health, and we're going to get into that as well in the coming weeks. And then the opening of a new venue called Lux in Sandton at LXX Sandhurst topped off that day. Then the next day it was off to a Dubai Tourism Roadshow at Melrose Arch, and then finally a braai with Meta, the people behind Instagram and Facebook. So it's been a minute. But enough about my week. Let's chat about what we're doing this week. In a bit, I'll be chatting to a media powerhouse about her career, her life, and what's next. Really looking forward to this interview. take a listen. Then I'll get you all the details of the upcoming WineX Festival coming to Sandton, one of the biggest wine gatherings, I think, in South Africa, or in the Southern Hemisphere at least. As always, then I catch up with our regular entertainment commentator straight after that to chat all things entertainment as we head to the theatre. And finally, we catch up with an international music producer visiting South Africa to chat about some of his projects and also some of the South African artists that he's working with. You don't want to miss that. All this and more coming up in the next hour, and I'd also like to hear from you. So if you want to get in touch, you can send through your questions, comments, and feedback via email on editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media @Sandton Times, and then make sure that you use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. That's the official Sandton Times WhatsApp line. And, of course, also visit the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and make sure that you subscribe to the podcast community on all leading podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Podcast Party, and so much more. And always, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
Topical news.
My fellow South Africans.
Big names.
I love that.
The hottest entertainment.
I'll be back soon. Yeah, I'll call you myself.
And everything in between.
What an honor. I was born in Sandton, grew up in Sandton, so here I am.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on 919, and my first guest is no stranger to champagne, darling.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Well, she's been called the Queen of South African media, a powerhouse entrepreneur and a trendsetter. And from breaking barriers on radio and television to building one of the country's most successful luxury beverage brands, Bonang Matheba has proven time and again that she's more than just a media personality. And in a minute, she joins me to talk about her journey and what's next. Bonang Matheba, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much. My very first time. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, Alexandra.
Listen, it's great to have you. You've often spoken about pivotal moments that have shaped your career. Looking back over the 2 decades, which of those turning points have taught you the toughest lessons about resilience and reinvention?
Ooh, I love that question. I think, you're very right. I've had many pivotal moments in my career, moving from an on-air personality to starting my own company, moving from TV to radio, moving from just on-air talent to executive producing my own projects. I think pivotal moments always come when you either something very large, which is good, happens, or something very large, which is bad, happens. So I've had a mixture of both. And I think in both moments, it's about the takings and what you learn from it and sort of the experiences that you take away from that. So I think one pivotal moment was definitely starting the House of BNG, which was around the project idea started 4 years prior to launch. So we launched around 2018, 2019. So coming back from my experiences overseas, that pivotal moment when I decided, okay, I'm going to start the House of BNG, I think that taught me a lot about ownership, taking control of your talent, of your creative, of your dreams, and being a spearhead and really going guns blazing to make your dreams come true. So I think number one, the House of BNG, and then starting Bonang Matheba Entertainment, which is also my TV production company, but also my marketing and brand activation agency. That too was a pivotal moment, and it taught me a lot about, once again, taking control of your dreams. In the world of entertainment and being an on-air personality, this industry is quite fickle. So I've learned very much to build my own dreams, take control of my own dreams, and try to corporatize a lot of everything that I have, my IP, my ideas, my talent, my voice, my personality, whatever it is.
And that's what a lot of young talent coming into this industry often doesn't realize, that everyone wants to be a presenter, they want to be on TV, they want to be the face, but it's only once you make that shift to behind the scenes where you take control of the production or the creating your own brand, that's really where you suddenly do have way more control and much more longevity, much like yourself.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, Alex, and particularly in the era of digital, where everything that we do is online, everything that we share is online. And it's very easy for somebody to either snatch or take ownership of your work. Learning the fundamentals of protecting your brand, protecting your talent, protecting your creative, protecting your IP, for me, was a big moment for me, both as an on-air personality, but also as a young businesswoman. You know, how brands approach you changes, how people interact with you changes, because you're not only a talent now you are the CEO, you're the business owner, you're also coming as the decision maker on your own behalf. And I want young people to know that from the very beginning. It's a mistake that I that I had to learn much later in life, but really do take ownership and try as much as you can to protect your work and protect any kind of piece of information that you share or idea that you share with the world.
I mean, you've also had the fantastic opportunity of working with international brands and sort of really getting into the meat of it. What kind of lessons have you learned from those global partnerships that you've now brought into your own businesses?
Oh man, I think the lessons vary. And I think the one big lesson that I took and I realized from a young age was the power of collaboration. And collaboration, many facets, collaborating with young creatives, collaborating with business gurus, collaborating with individuals within corporate South Africa, but collaborating with people who will help you build and grow on whatever it is you're trying to do. You know, my mom always says no man is an island, and working with Cavassier and working with, Brutal Fruit and all these other brands, that's the key takeaway from it, is that they used the power of collaborating with younger influencers or younger talent to really expand on a message or expand on an experience. I think for me that was the key takeaway. But also it was inspiration. You know, seeing these global brands, you can see the potential of what a young South African dream could possibly become.
But I think with you, it's very easy for people to always see the glamorous side of this business, the final result, as you want to call it. But a lot of people don't always see the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into those moments or into the picture. What's some of the most unglamorous sacrifices that you've had to make behind the scenes to get to this point?
Oh man, I'm quite a family-orientated person, and I spend a lot of time with my family, and that's spending a lot of time with my family and my loved ones is a big part of me and my personality and just feeling good and doing good and just being a good person. So one of the big sacrifices was not being able to sacrificing that time. Entertainment takes a lot of time over the weekends, takes a lot of time at night, takes a lot of time. You know, when everybody's on holiday, that's when we have to entertain. That's when we start working. So I think that is the big sacrifice, not spending enough time with your loved ones and having to explain, particularly to people who don't understand what you're doing, why you have to be away for so long. And another sacrifice is definitely the late nights. We work very late at night, and there's a lot of travel and lack of sleep. So I think those two for me would stand out for sure.
Well, listen, talk about late nights. You've just concluded a partnership now with La Parada, where you've brought House of BNG into that lifestyle dining space. What does it represent to you personally after all these years of building this brand to be a part of La Parada?
Oh, I think definitely it's exciting because it means expansion. You know, BNG is only just 5 years old, and I think any collaboration that we make, any growth that we make, any progress that we make is worth celebration. We obviously are available online and in many retailers, but moving into the restaurant industry is quite a big step for me. I've always had a dream of having my wine in wonderful restaurants around the country, around the world, ultimately getting into airports and then ultimately into aviation. It just means that we're growing, slow and steady. Wins the race. Getting into La Parada means, slow and steady wins the race for sure. It means, our consumers, our customers, people who love the House of BNG can now enjoy it in restaurants and spaces that they enjoy. La Parada is such a wonderful, group of restaurants, and them onboarding us was a 2-year kind of discussion. And when they gave us the green light, we thought this is fantastic because it really represents the kind of person who we want to enjoy BNG. You know, they're fabulous, they're young, they love celebrations, whether it's a small celebration or not. They love being around loved ones, they love being around friends, they love going outside, but they also love a good South African wine. So it's a great step into the restaurant business, and I hope we end up on many other menus around the country, get into aviation, and then, you know, global expansion.
Well, you've always been somebody who's been very much aligned with something that has to be authentic. There has to be a bit of a flow. There has to be a natural feel. How do you decide on these partnerships or these opportunities and make sure that they're right for you?
I think it's very easy. I always really kind of sign on with things that are authentic to me, things that I really, really love, experiences, brands, you know, whatever project it is that is close to my heart, because I feel if you choose those kinds of work or spaces, projects, brands, whatever it is, it doesn't feel like work. That's how I like to look at it. I want to choose brands that are aligned with the things that I love. Bonang is a glamour girl. I'm a fashion girl. I'm an on-air personality. I love celebrities, fashion, travel, lifestyle, wine, food, entertainment, South Africa, South African sports. So anything that aligns to that will be easy for me to kind of onboard. And, you know, my fans can always tell when people, I think, can always tell when you're doing something authentically, because it aligns with who you are, your values, the things that you love, and it becomes easier for you to kind of become a brand ambassador per se, or an influencer or a collaborator with that brand, because it doesn't feel like a hard sell. So that's why I've chosen the brands that I've chosen. It's easier that way. I think authenticity resonates with people and it draws people closer, and people really fall in love with things that you are authentically in love with.
The voice of the one and only Bonang Matheba. Go check out House of Bonang at La Parada. I know they've got a big store at Nelson Mandela Square right here in the heart in Sandton. And Bonang, thanks for making the time to chat on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
It's that time of the year again when Sandton transforms into the wine capital of Africa, and as the Southern Hemisphere's most celebrated wine event returns to the Sandton Convention Centre for 3 unforgettable nights. I'm going to be talking to the founders of WineX about WineX, which is celebrating more than 25 years of swirling, sipping, and savouring the best wines from South Africa. To help us navigate 9,000 wine enthusiasts, 700 wines from more than 120 exhibitors, it's the man behind it all, Michael Fridjhon, director of WineX. He is a wine authority and one of South Africa's most respected voices in the world of wine. And Michael, wonderful to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me on board.
Well, Michael, WineX has become certainly our part of the world's most spectacular wine celebration. It's now 25 years old, so I'd say well matured. I think it's rested well on the shelf. What do you think has made WineX such a lasting success?
I think, firstly and foremostly, the South Africans who love wine. It's as simple as that. We've had wonderful growth in the wine industry over that quarter century. We've come out of the end of that age of isolation. The number of wineries has increased. The engagement with the international world, our booming export business, all of those components really has turned the Cape wine industry into one which the really important international critics, Jancis Robinson, Neil Martin, they all say the same thing, the most exciting wine industry in the world. So we really have got that sense of arriving on the world stage, and we've seen so much of it in the 30 years or thereabouts since 1994. So WineX arrived at the right time. It transformed the old, what had once been Rand-Daddy-Mail Wine Festival, then Business Day Wine Festival, into a totally new event. And that event benefited as well from the fact that in 2000, the Sandton Convention Centre arrived in the middle of Sandton. And you need space like that to accommodate this growing wine industry. And so suddenly there was the space, there were the producers, there was the audience. And now we see, certainly in the last 10 or 15 years, the transforming middle class has discovered wine. So everything has come together, and all we've actually done is try to keep the ship away from the rocks.
For someone who's never been to the event, who's maybe been there once and sort of been curious, what would you say is the best way of navigating this show? Because I know obviously the easy thing is to grab a glass and just start from A and finish at Z and hope that you make it all the way through. But is there a bit of an expert view on how to navigate WineX?
The answer is, if you don't have a method, you are going to be waylaid. It is just like going down so many rabbit holes. In part, that's the joy of WineX, that you come across things you least expected to find and fall in love with them. So there are some rules. Don't go and visit your favorites. You already know what they taste like. It's a waste of the opportunity to go back and simply taste what you already know. So that's a real rule. Skip the stuff you know, otherwise you're just not on a voyage of discovery. I think that there are other things you can profitably do. You can go to the website before the show, identify the producers whose wines you've always wanted to try, and make sure that you get round to them. If you are really a fanatic about one or two or three varieties, then make sure that you identify the producers of those varieties at the show. So narrow it down. Don't just go to, say, Mearlist. Go to Mearlist for the Chardonnay, not for the Rubicon. Make it a narrower choice. And then I always think you need to broaden your horizon. So if you're a white wine drinker and your standard fare is, say, Chenin and Chardonnay, go and try Grenache Blanc. Go and say, I wonder what white blends will do for me. And use that opportunity to broaden the spectrum of your interests. So I know it sounds like doing a bit of homework just to go out and have fun, but that's if you want to get the most from the show. If you're simply going to go there to have a good time, discover some good wines, shop amazing bargains. The guys all put on really special pricing for WineX, and the shop at show through Norman Goodfellows passes on those bargains, and you get delivery to your door, and for a relatively small purchase, I think 2,500 Rand, you get some Riedel glasses with your purchase if you shop on the night. There really are opportunities to do your Christmas shopping in late October, get the bargains, get the glasses, and make use of the opportunity as it is.
Well, if you're feeling a tingle in your palate, the place to be is the Standard Bank WineX, Wednesday 29 October to Friday 31 October. It's open from 5 to 9 o'clock, and we'll put up the details on the website if you want to get yourself some tickets. The voice of Michael Fridjhon, director of WineX, and it's been such a pleasure, Michael, having you on the Sandton Times Hour, and thanks for making the time to chat.
Thank you very much indeed, Alexander. Nice to speak. Cheers.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Taking you to the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner, and if there's anything that you caught on the show this week, you heard something, it sparked your interest, but you didn't get the details, didn't have a chance to write it down, well, hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and have a look at the show notes, and there you'll get some more details, breakdown of everything we've discussed, and a little bit of extra reading and some extra links. And I know a lot of people love listening to the show on the website and then browsing the notes whilst they're listening along, which is great. Thanks for doing that. Also, be sure to check out the social media accounts at Sandton Times on your preferred social media channel, be it X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You pick yours, and make sure you're following the Sandton Times there, as well as WhatsApp 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866, and feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and media. It's time to connect with Tat Wolfen, our regular entertainment commentator, and Tat and I have been very busy this week. There's been so much going on. It's unbelievable. It's that quarter of the year where everything happens. There's been television channel launches, there's been theatre, there's been movies, but Tat, I think this week we're only going to have time to focus on the theatre bit.
No, I think so. There's just too much interesting stuff that's happening. And I would like to kick us off with Noises Off, which is currently playing at the Peter Turine Main Theatre at Monte Cassino.
Right.
They have done Noises Off before. It was a few years ago. And I think a lot of people who'd enjoyed it the first time around would love to go and see it again. And people who haven't seen it, well, now's your chance. So it revolves around this concept that they call repertory theatre in the UK. And this is now backstory. This is not what they tell you on stage.
Okay.
But in order to save budget on having theatrical productions in your town, which would be, because they play at all the smaller towns. What they would do is they would mount a production and then take it to, Bradford for 2 nights, and then to someplace else for 3 nights. So they would tour these plays around town. The actors were kind of semi-professional, so they had acting ability, but they weren't people who did acting day in and day out 24/7. So as a result, you're bound to have a few problems, and this play is all about problems. So it deals with all the theatrical stereotypes that you're going to encounter anyway, which is the actors and their egos and their insecurities, and then there's the long-suffering director who's tearing his hair out because opening night is approaching, and then to add to the chaos, there are the props that aren't in the right place at the right time, and the actors missing their cues. So what this play does is it's broken down into 3 acts, and all of them show the first act of the play that this repertory company is going to be taking on the road. So the first act is the final rehearsal, where you have the director of the play sitting in the audience and calling out corrections and things and trying to soothe egos and give actors their motivation, like, what's my motivation for walking to that door kind of nonsense. And then this in the second act, the scenery has been reversed. So you're seeing the same play, the same first act of the play, but this time you're seeing it from behind the scenes. Okay. And you're seeing all the chaos that goes on behind the scenes that the audience doesn't see. And then finally, the third act is seen from the front again, as an unfortunate audience would have experienced things. And let me tell you something, you need to be concentrating because stuff is going on everywhere and all the time. And I can guarantee you those actors are going to lose weight during the run of the play, because I think that even members of the audience were perspiring from the stress of it all. It's huge fun. It's frenetic and intense, very funny, very farcical, and that's Noises Off at the Peter Tureen Main Theatre at Monte Casino.
We also had a chance to go catch Chicago, which is doing its run in Johannesburg right now.
Yeah, now Chicago is one of those musicals by Kanda and Ebb. Now, if you know Kanda and Ebb's stuff, they tend to be quite dark. Now, don't get me wrong, I love your Sound of Music, Singing in the Rains, all those uplifting musicals. But Kanda and Webb, they're obviously, there's upbeat songs and there's tunes that you're going to be humming when you walk out, but they do investigate the darker side of life, okay? Perhaps one of the other more famous musicals is Cabaret, which was set in Germany at the time of the rise of the Nazis. So it kind of gives you an idea that these guys like to dig deeper into the human psyche and find all those ugly bits. And Chicago certainly is one of those shows. Did you enjoy it?
Listen, Tat, I have to say I had never seen it, to my own theatrical dismay, because I tend to try and see as much as I can. I'd never seen the movie, I'd never seen the musical, so I was coming in completely with no expectations, having a very vague understanding of the plot line. Of course, there's 1 or 2 tunes that we all know, All That Jazz, and maybe 1 or 2 others. And I must say, the South African cast did an exceptional job of bringing the energy, bringing the performance, to the extent that I've now subsequently tried to watch some clips and some things that you can find on YouTube of some international productions and obviously the movies. And I can tell you, we really do hold our own on stage.
I have to tell you, Alex, I'm not one of the people who says support local theatre or local films simply because they're local, okay?
Yeah.
But I've got to tell you, I've seen numerous shows on both the West End and Broadway, and I've often seen the same show on the West End and locally. And it gives me goosebumps to tell you that the talent that we have here, the theatrical talent that we have here, is gobsmacking. And this production of Chicago, if you want to see something of Broadway standing, then it's right there at the Teatro at Monte Casino. It's like, it really is Broadway quality, and sometimes even better than some of the stuff we see on Broadway.
No, and listen,
really
and you've got air conditioning, and I mean, you're paying a fraction of the price which you would probably be paid to go see this in London and New York. So if you haven't got your tickets to that yet, I do encourage you to do it, because I don't know if you're ever going to see it at this level of quality and at that price anytime soon. So 2 great plays, Noise is Off and Chicago. So if that theatre bug is biting, then I think this is certainly the week and the month to go and head to the theatre.
Absolutely. Just a quick little word about the Teatro. Do you know that every seat in those stalls is close? It's unbelievable. Even if you have a seat in the back and you're thinking, oh, ye gods, I'm stuck in the back of the theatre, it feels close. It's not although I said the South African theatres have that sort of sense of space and stuff, it's still a kind of an intimate, large theatre, if I can express it in that odd way. Yeah.
Well, Tat, there's one seat that's closest to me every single Monday, and that's the one right opposite me. But Tat, we're going to do it all again and keep that seat free for you for next Monday.
Thanks, pal. Look forward to it.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So my next guest is none other than Manny Mijares, an international acclaimed multi-platinum and Grammy-nominated music producer whose fingerprints can be found all over the global charts. Manny's worked with some of the biggest names in the business: Dua Lipa, Kelly Rowland, Pitbull, Craig David, and even Snoop Dogg, just to name a few. But this time, Manny's bringing his world-class expertise right here to South Africa to launch some highly acclaimed talent, including Giselle Niemand, a young singer and songwriter from Sandton. And their collaboration, recorded in Los Angeles, blends global pop with a touch of South African flair. And Giselle's latest single, Fake Love, released this past week, and you can catch that on YouTube as well. I know there's a video up there. And Manny and Giselle, they've been working together, but I know Manny's also been working with a lot of other South African talent. But let me welcome Manny onto the Sandton Times Hour.
Crowd goes wild. Let's go. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Manny, it's great to have you on. Thanks for making the time. And as we kick things off, from where you're sitting, where do you see the global music business sitting at the moment in terms of what works and where it's going?
You know, that's really interesting question, because this is my first time in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and it's now an international market, right? You know, with technology and all these things happening in the music industry with streaming and AI and all this stuff, it's like everything's become so global. And I think it's a really great time in music, because for the first time ever, you can hear every part. You know, there's songs breaking right now that aren't in English in America, and you know, it's just a very exciting time. So, you know, I think it's just going to get bigger.
Is this a result of hit makers like Gangnam Style and Jerusalema, and like you're saying, songs that aren't necessarily English? I mean, Despacito with the Latino, pop music that just suddenly made waves around the world. Has that broken down those barriers in terms of the US music market as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think fans are what really give you the gauge, and the global industry, the global fans are what kind of sets the pace for the market, right? So now, like I said, with technology, you know, you can hear a song if you're in Mexico, if you're in Latin America, if you're in South Africa, and you listen, you know, and it just continues to get bigger.
So what have you spotted in the likes of Giselle Niemand? I know you're also working with another artist in South Africa called JX Lin. I mean, it's quite a far way to come to find some new talent. What resonates with you?
I'm actually really pleasantly surprised at the talent here in Johannesburg. Going to Cape Town next week, and it's just a very exciting time to listen to a lot of different styles, a lot of different types of music, and the talent here has actually been incredible. But there's a few competitions that I've judged over the years, and they're international competitions, and I've noticed, you know, just kind of shift in the market. And a lot of the people from South Africa, you know, when they come to America, you know, they're hungry. They want a piece of the action. You know, they want to break as artists. I feel like it was just the right time to come and just see. We did a workshop the other day that was incredible. The musicianship, and like I said, the different cultures in South Africa. There's a lot of different languages and a lot of different styles. So yeah, I mean, Giselle Niemand, a pop artist, you know, just doing pop. You know, some of her influencers are people like Sabrina Carpenter and Ariana Grande. So, you know, that market's never going to die, right? There's always going to be space, and there's always going to be a lane for people that want to do pop. And then with Jay Lynn, you know, she's just this old soul rock musician where she wants to do I mean, almost this 90s alternative rock, which I feel like there's a big gap in the market for right now. And what's going to happen is that stuff's going to start coming back around, right? Because everything right now is just so saturated and so cookie cutter and formulated. Eventually, people are going to want to get back to seeing these live shows and seeing rock music. I went to a concert. Actually, it was an Afrikaans concert for the first time, and saw this whole thing at one of the stadiums here, and that was just an incredible experience as well. So I think live musicianship and different styles of music, people are starting to become open-minded and appreciate music as a whole.
Interesting point you raised there about cookie cutter, maybe a bit formulaic. Has the pop music business gotten to a point where it is a question of how much money have you got? Can you fork out to go to a Max Martin and say, listen, write me a hit, I'll record it, and I know it's a guaranteed world chart topper? Or is there still a bit of space for nuance, for originality, for something that is a bit off the beaten track?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be a part of it when it comes to dollars and cents and marketing and capitalism, and it's, throwing money in the right places. And of course you can build awareness that way. But at the end of the day, I think great always rises to the top. Right? If you're a great artist and you practice your musicianship and you're getting better vocally and you're doing all these things to become a real artist, I think there's always going to be an appreciation, and there's always going to be a market for, talent. Talent is talent, and you can't deny that. And I have a saying, good is the enemy of great. So you can be a good artist and throw a bunch of money behind marketing and get the best producers in the world and get the best songwriters and all this stuff, but me personally, I'll always bet on great. I'll always bet on someone doing an incredible song by themselves in their garage, and it's undeniable because it'll make you feel something. You can't fool or trick people. If somebody sees something, it's like with social media, right? If you go on and you see, something that's just promoted or someone's boosted something, it's a lot different than something actually going viral and all of a sudden like it just takes off because it's really funny and you caught the right moment, or it's really great and someone they checked all the boxes and all of a sudden it just goes. So I think those moments are undeniable. And I think as we get more into it, people will start to realize that, they want to go see a performance. They want to listen to someone that knows how to, just play a song on the guitar and sing their heart out. And I'm going to be here for it. And I'm excited to see it.
You mentioned Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, someone who's blown up over the last couple of months now with some of her hits. How difficult is it to break it into this industry in 2025? And what does it take to get to that point?
Well, she's a perfect example because she's been at it for many, many, many years. I mean, she's got tons of albums. She's got tons of songs out. She started with a TV show. I mean, it's actually very difficult. They say that it's about a 4% success ratio to become, a household name or to break in the music industry, right? Even Selena Gomez back in the day, it was very hard for her to break, and she had a hit TV show. On Disney Plus, and she had things behind her. She had a machine behind her like Disney Radio, and she had a hit TV show. So the thing about that is that if you just are consistent and you keep going and you work with the right people and you constantly get better and you're able to, through experience, figure out ways to excel at things that you're naturally good at, I'm a firm believer that you will always rise to the top. But it's very difficult and you have to stick with it. I have what I call this triangle of success, where it's passion, persistence, and perseverance.
What are your plans with your visit to South Africa? What are you hoping to go home with or take away from this trip?
I feel like I've already, the first couple days, I feel like I got it. It's one of those things where, you get to, I'm literally on the other side of the world. Everyone has been so friendly and so kind. And, we've gone out and we've seen, different cultures, and I've gotten to see the musicianship, and I've really felt at home. So our next stop is Cape Town. We're going to do a music workshop there. And at this point in my career, I'm just interested in listening and understanding people and figuring out ways to expand on my craft and build and see what new things can be developed, especially in music, because everything's been done before. It's very difficult to be original or to create something that no one's heard before. But I feel like in coming here, I've gotten this, I'm reinvigorated, and I have a new inspiration to help, not only do what I'm passionate about, but to help other artists break in the industry.
Amazing. Well, Manny, it's been good to have you in South Africa. Manny Mijares, he's the international acclaimed multi-platinum and Grammy-nominated music producer in South Africa, working with a whole bunch of South African artists, including Giselle Niemand. And Manny, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. And we'll keep you updated on everything that's to come.
And I think that's about all we have time for on the show this week on the Sandton Times Hour. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media @Sandton Times. Don't forget to visit the website sandtontimes.co.za and also save the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton 084 726 3866 for your voice notes, text messages, and media. As always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and be part of the digital community online: Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, and so many other leading digital platforms. And thank you to the team who made this all happen behind the scenes. Of course, also the guests who made the time to be on the show this week. Hugely appreciated. A very special thank you to you for listening. And God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.